Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the number one marketing and practice growth podcast for high-performing private practice hearing care leaders. It's Friday, and this is my end-of-week roundup of what's top of mind after 7 days of helping some of the world's best private practices to attract high-quality patients, fight the evil forces of manufacturer-owned chains, and be impossible to compete with. My name's Ollie Luke. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and let's have a chat. All right, so welcome along to another episode of the Business of Hearing podcast, and we're getting into the specifics in this one. We're going very, very tactically focused, allowing you to capture more money. But first of all, thanks for joining, thanks for lending me your ears, and as always, I never aim for these episodes to be long. I expect them to be valuable. I want to squeeze as much into every minute as possible to ensure that you're a very busy person. You can maximize your time, get as much value as possible from our time together, and most importantly, drive things into action that will make a meaningful difference, allowing you to grow the practice, make more money, and have significantly more success. And with that said, here's what we're talking about today, and it's how to minimize the no-show rate. Because if we zoom out for a moment of this specific issue and just look at business and practice as a whole, there's only three ways to grow any business, and that is to get more customers, get them to spend more, and get them to spend more often. If we really bubble it down to hearing care, it's how do we get more patients, how do we increase their average transaction value, how much they pay you, and how do we increase their frequency of purchase, how often they upgrade or buy additional services. Like, that is the fundamental formula for how you can maximize growth of a hearing care practice. The obsession of most marketing in our industry is more patients, more patients, more patients. But in many ways, the lever of grow average transaction value or increase frequency of purchase are more severe levers that you can pull with significantly less work that have a compounding difference on your bottom line and the revenue that you end up collecting at the end of the year. It's often entirely underappreciated just how much of a difference growing ATV, average transaction value, by $300, $400, $500 a transaction makes, or similarly, how much increasing that frequency of purchase from 5 years to 4 years in the upgrade cycle makes to the average lifetime value of that patient. Like, there's so many levers that can be pulled to make big, big differences. And one of the ones that is often overlooked is the show-up rate. Because let's hypothetically say you schedule 100 patients a month. The difference between 82 of them showing up and 95 of them showing up may not feel too significant. It may be accepted, right? Like, oh, we get 80%-ish show up. We're going to have a few people drop out. Circumstances change. People make a different decision in the last minute. But if you can get that number to be closer to 100%, if you can really maximize the percentage of people that show up, that makes a huge, huge difference to your numbers. And it's totally underappreciated. Now, let's use that. Let's say 80% show up right now. And just imagine if we can get that 80% to 95, hypothetically. And if that's over 100 patients, rather than 80 turns up, 95 turn up. Now, take those 15 extra patients. Take the help rate. Let's say 50% of the patients you see say yes to treatment. So we've got 7.5 of those patients. And then how much would they spend on average? Let's say it's $6,000. There's 7.5 times $6,000. Like, it's not too shabby, is it, right? You collect an extra, $42,000 per month just in that little gap from an area where you were like, oh, 80% turn up, it's okay. Like, that is an area for serious attention because there's things you cannot control. There's a lot of circumstances you cannot control about the success of patients that turn up. But there's some big things that you can control. And as long as you can control your controllables in order to maximize the percentage of patients that show up, then you're doing everything in your power in all these little areas that compound to make a big, big difference. So I want to share 4 big things that you can do in order to maximize the percentage of patients that turn up. First of all, let's jump into the first, and that is scheduling. Because what the patient experiences and sees prior to scheduling is one of the biggest factors that's going to dictate the joy of them turning up or not. And what does that mean? Well, if somebody has been scrolling Facebook, watching random videos, and then your advert pops up, and your advert tells them that they can book a free hearing test, a free hearing screening by clicking here, and it doesn't even take them to a web page. It keeps them, it's a lead ad on Facebook. It allows them to click some information and submit, and it sends the inquiry to you. Then you call them and schedule an appointment. Are we really surprised that a percentage of them don't show up? Like they're so early in their research phase that they've just responded to an ad that piqued their interest. They'll probably forget your brand name 24 hours after that ad has seen and that they responded to the ad. Like the weight of education, the weight of where they are on that kind of stages of awareness around the motivation to come and see you as a solution to the challenges that they face is so small. Yet on the other hand, if somebody has been doing their research and due diligence online, they've been doing their research on competitors and then have decided you're the right fit, they've read your website, they understand you, they like you, they know you're the solution to the challenges that you have based on the case studies, the evidence that you've developed to prove that you are who you say you are, then when they schedule, the likelihood of them coming to you because they've got an affinity to you and they know you're the people that can help them with the challenges they're uniquely facing, like two very, very different factors. And that often gets overlooked. The journey that someone has to schedule is different, and not all scheduled appointments are valued the same. People that have been educated, read your website, studied your website, done their due diligence, done their research, and then decided that unless you really mess it up at the appointment, they're probably going to do business with you, are very different to the ones that responded to something in the moment, can't remember your name, they forgot they even responded 15 minutes later, and now they've got a little bit of admin that they're not even that sold on doing, but they've kind of made a mini commitment and they'll see how they feel on the day. Two very different circumstances. And this is the difference between advertising and marketing. Advertising is like asking somebody on a date. Marketing is all the reasons they say yes. Get the marketing right. Attract patients organically that are pre-sold on you. You speak to them because they're the types of patients you help. You look like the practice that you want to become. You look like the practice that can solve the challenges that unique patient has. And you have a never-ending body of evidence to prove that you've helped people like the patient to solve the challenges they're looking to solve with great success. Like, get that bit right, because asking people to respond to an advert in a moment with a coupon, an incentive, a free hearing test, no wonder they don't care. No wonder they're not going to show up. Like, their level of commitment is so low. Like, that is the first that is often overlooked. The more you can have patients be qualified through education and deciding on you in advance, the better success rate you're going to have of those patients turning up. Here's the second one. It's the experience between patient scheduling and appointment dates. Because what do most practices do? They send a confirmation email, some paperwork, and then not an awful lot else. And with many practices being scheduled 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, even 5 weeks out, that's a big gap for the patient to sit there and wait for this appointment. Now, how do we change and pivot wait time to preparation time? What can we do in that gap to ensure that the patient is already making micro commitments or on the journey towards that appointment where they're feeling they're putting sweat equity and work into preparing for that appointment? Now, I've seen practices do a variety of things. A really simple one is when patient schedules, send them an email that says, hey, prior to the appointment and we're looking forward to seeing you, I've got a video for you to watch, click here. And the video is a welcome to the practice, a walk around what they can expect, the FAQs being overcome on the page, an understanding of some of the case studies of the patients you've helped, talk about the pricing question, talk about everything you would want that patient to know to ensure they're the best prepared, pre-framed, pre-sold on working with you prior to that appointment. Like, that step has them watch that and go, I'm in the right place, I'm ready, I'm motivated, I know these have the solutions to my challenges, I'm looking forward to that appointment. Like, that is such a simple one. If you are booked out 4, 5, 6 weeks and you want to go to the next level, like, could you drop something in the mail? And could this be a preparation pack? A little box that turns up in the mail that has homework for them to complete. Like, pick some situations where you struggled in environments and tell us a story, tell us what happened. Like, give them homework to do to ensure they're preparing for the appointment, that they turn up having done work that they've put time and effort into, which means they're further invested into this process. Similarly, in that box, you could put the things in like FAQs, like the velvet rope policy to say, here's the type of patients we get the best results for, people who are committed, people who are open-minded, people who do the work. Like, everybody accepts, everybody wants to be open-minded, committed. Like, you can pretty much paint this however you want. And could you have a little book of delighted patients, case study of patient after patient with their story, their picture? Like, you could have this do all the heavy lifting, because remember the marketing and sales dynamic. The job of marketing is to make sales easy. And if you do marketing correctly, the job of sales is only to sprinkle and fill in the gaps that marketing couldn't answer. And that's the big dynamic of getting that bit right. What else can you do between the appointment being scheduled and the date of appointment? Well, could you run a seminar? Could you run an online seminar? And it could be pre-recorded. But if you could say to patients, hey, ahead of your appointment, I've put a 45-minute training together that I highly, highly encourage you to watch to ensure you're best prepared for the next steps. You could send them the email, you could send them the video, you could track if they watch it. But imagine that. What would that do to the credibility of you and your team that you're delivering an educational seminar? And what could it do to the education of the patient to ensure that they're completely pre-sold on the benefits of hearing healthcare over hearing aids? They understand that TPA probably isn't the right option. Whatever you wanted to put into that, you could educate in a beautiful, beautiful way and have them perfectly ready when they turn up for that appointment with all their questions answered, being super educated to know that moving forward with you is probably the right solution for them. But that is a big, big gap that you can put into there. Here's the third one. The third one is to use something called an integrity tie down. And what I mean by this is people are happy to let other people down unless they've got some form of integrity skin in the game. And what I mean by that is we've all scheduled an appointment that we didn't really care for. And here's a prime example. I'm recording this on a Friday. I had an eye test this morning at like a big local store. I cancelled it last minute because I didn't really care. I didn't need it that much. I got a letter to schedule it. I scheduled it. It didn't end up being convenient. I cancelled it. However, if the practice, the Specsavers, which is a big chain in the UK, would have called me and said, hey, we've got you scheduled for this time. Just want to ask a quick question. Is there anything that could come up that would stop you from attending this appointment? And my answer would probably be like, no, shouldn't be. I was like, good, our time is super, super busy. We just want you to let you know that if anything comes up whatsoever, please let us know as soon as possible. Like, if they could ask those questions that have some form of integrity tie down, like I've give my word that I'm not the type of person that would not turn up for an appointment, or I'm the person that would let them know in advance, and I give that confirmation, and that could be over the phone. I wouldn't put it on email. I think it needs to have that depth to it. Then all of a sudden, the integrity game means that I'm much more likely to attend, in the same way that I've agreed to meet a friend for a drink. Like, me not turning up is very, very awkward and bad because I've given my word. It just holds a super, super different weight. Other things that you can do just from a psychological perspective to maximize the chances of people turning up for an appointment: give them a choice. And what I mean by that is 2 days ahead of the appointment, if you said, hey, we're just getting prepared for your appointment, can I just ask when you turn up, what would be your preference? Would it be tea or coffee? Or, hey, every time somebody comes for a new appointment, we give them a t-shirt. Do you prefer red or do you prefer black as a colour? Like, some form of choice to show that you're preparing for them and they've made a decision that means that you're preparing and you're doing work in the background around their decision. It's just going to hold that weight of them being more likely to attend. What else would I put into kind of the psychological game there? I had something else circulating my mind right then. Oh, a little one. Day before the appointment, 2 days before the appointment, send them a picture with their name written down somewhere. So let's say they're scheduled for tomorrow. If you can say, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you, and we've got a few things prepared for you, and there's a little placard with their name written on it, like, it becomes very, very difficult not to turn up because they see you've put sweat equity and work into preparation. It just changes the whole dynamic. So, like, there's little things we can do from a psychological perspective in that area. It does take work, but given that gap, if the gap's big enough between the number of people that are not showing up or cancelling, like, this is work that will pay for itself many, many times over. And then the fourth one on this, and the fourth one really is basics to a gold standard consistently. And what I mean by that is most practices don't even give consideration to confirming appointments and making it easy. Like, just the basics would be really, really powerful here. Forget the psychological tricks, forget creating a pack of information, forget recording a video as you walk around your practice. Like, just call them and say, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you next week. Hey, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. 90 minutes before the appointment, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you in 90 minutes. Like, those little things are text message confirmations. Like, how can we ensure that they know that somebody on the other end of that line in the practice is waiting and relying on them. Like, just those basics implemented correctly make a big difference. You tie everything together that I've spoken about, and I think you're on for the highest possible show-up rate for appointments, excluding any illnesses, dramatic impact, like anything that outside of the natural control that you have. But like, this is an area that's overlooked. This is the area where work rarely goes into it because all the focus is on new patients. But if you're sprinkling 100 new patients in and 20% of them are falling out that bucket, we should probably do some work in order to shore up that bucket rather than just sprinkling more and more new patients in the top, because getting new patients in is expensive. And these are the things we can do that don't cost us too much to do, that can be developed once, then processed, then trained, then passed on to your team with accountabilities. And you can maximize the success of every single patient that schedules, get them more likely to turn up. And then from there, if they're turning up, you're in a position to have a percentage of them say yes. That percentage spend a sum of money, and that sum of money will add up over the course of months, years. It gives you lots of extra money in your pocket at the end of the year to spend on something fun. And this is the game, my friends. There's so many more exciting things we can focus on, right? How do we get new patients? How do we do all the cool things? These are the fundamentals that are overlooked by far too many practices that shouldn't be overlooked. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it gave you at least one big thing to go away and implement. And if you're in a position now where your show-up rate is superb, don't worry. Don't stress. What can you do to make it slightly better should always be the game. But if you've got a gap between the percentage of people that say yes to an appointment and the percentage of people that turn up, get obsessive in this area. It's one of the areas you can do it well once, you can process it, document, and train an individual in your team to make accountability for it, and you're going to be in a beautiful position to watch the numbers grow. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll be back again next week with another episode. And as promised, try to maximize and squeeze as much as I can into every single minute. And I hope I achieve that purpose. And this was as helpful as possible. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll speak to you soon. And there we have it. Another episode has come to an end. And I have a quick favor to ask. If you have found this helpful, then who do you know who should listen to this podcast? I strongly believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and right now, private practice needs to stick together to fight these big, gormless groups and these manufacturer-owned Goliaths that are looking to take market share from us. Consider who should be listening, pass on the word about the Business of Hearing podcast, and I'll see you again next week.